Aloha everyone, welcome to Skincare with Hyram. If you don't know who I am, my name is Hyram and I'm passionate about teaching you how to perfect your skincare routine. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can see my videos every single week. Today we're going to talk the technicals. Bro. Ingredients, my favorite thing to talk about. You know, I feel like in so many videos I want to get so technical, but I have to hold myself back because no one's going to understand what I'm saying. Actually, no, that's a lie. That's giving myself way too much credit. Y'all can understand what I'm talking about. I'm just boring. Ingredients are a very complicated topic, but something that I love to delve into because I just find them so fascinating. They're just an endless amount of knowledge. And no matter how much you think you know about ingredients, there is always more to learn. And that's one of the reasons I love skincare so much, is because it's just a constant process of learning. I feel like I'm never done. Every single day I'm learning new things. Now, if you are an avid watcher of my videos, you will know a phrase that I say all the time: ingredients don't lie, bitch. I love that phrase because I'm someone who loves to look at the ingredient list when it comes to shopping for products. Ingredients most of the time are the determining factor as to whether or not I'm going to buy a product. But ingredient lists don't tell the whole story. Within every single ingredient list, there is so much information to be learned and so many things that we just don't know about. And as much as I wish ingredient lists could tell the whole story, they don't. Which is why in this video, I want to bust some myths about reading an ingredient list, because trust me, there's a lot of myths out there. So let's get into it. This video is also in partnership with Biossance right here, their Clean Academy. Thank you so much, Biossance, for sponsoring this video. If you aren't familiar with Biossance's Clean Academy, it's an awesome resource where they make free videos all about skincare and clean beauty. Now, if you guys have watched my channel, you know that I am someone when it comes to clean beauty where I'm like, Sometimes I feel like clean beauty doesn't necessarily accurately represent skincare, and that there's a lot of fear mongering, there's a lot of greenwashing, and that clean beauty does definitely have its problems. But I think there are also a lot of positive, amazing things that come out of clean beauty, like the focus on sustainability, ethical sourcing, mindfulness about what you put on your skin, and overall just looking at your ingredient lists. And while I really do consider myself to be on the balance of the spectrum of scientific focused skincare versus clean beauty based skincare, I think there's so much to learn for both. One of the reasons I love Biossance is because I really do think that they fall in line with my personal philosophy. Biossance was originally inspired from a biotech company who found a sustainable alternative to squalane, the ingredient that they use in all of their products. It's an amazing moisturizing oil for the face, but was typically sourced from sharks, obviously unsustainably. And they managed to find how to source squalane from sugarcane and created an entire brand focused around squalane. The reason I love Biossance is because they're very critically focused on being a good balance between the scientific world and the clean beauty world, utilizing powerful science-based knowledge alongside clean beauty, sustainability, and ethics philosophies. Which is why I'm super excited about this partnership, not only to tell you guys more about ingredients, but if you are interested in learning more about skincare, ingredients, and just clean beauty knowledge in general, feel free to go to cleanacademy.com. You can find all of the Clean Academy videos there, some of which are with the amazing Jonathan Van Ness. And of course, if you are interested in getting any of the Biossance products, you can go to biossance.com and shop for all the products I have here, or the other ones that they have as well. If you want my personal recommendation, the Squalane and Probiotic Gel Moisturizer is my favorite. If you have oily combination skin, this is definitely a good one to get. I've seen a lot of conversation happening online about reading an ingredient list, and if reading an ingredient list is a good way to be able to tell if a product is good for your skin. And I have seen so many opinions. I've seen people who say yes, I've seen people who said no, and in that conversation I've seen a lot of myths going around. And here's the thing, as much as I love reading ingredient lists, finding out what's in them and determining whether they're good for my skin or not, they still don't tell me everything, and there's still a lot I don't know about the product. So what are some of these myths I'm referring to? Myth number 1, you can know the texture or consistency of a product just by reading the ingredient list. This is false. Remember, when a high quality skincare product is made, it's made by chemists in a laboratory, people who have studied for years and years and years how to formulate specific types of ingredients, which ones go well together, how they operate, if they're functional alongside each other, or if they'll make the formula turn bad. Formulation through chemistry is an art, and it takes a lot of knowledge and expertise of which I do not have. That's what chemists are for. And a texture is completely dependent on specific percentages of an ingredient used. Even if you have one ingredient in a formula at 10% and you decide to change it to 9%, there's going to be another ingredient that's going to be more present to fill up that extra 1%. And just that tiny little adjustment can change the entire texture and consistency of a formula. And I've seen people say before, oh, well, you can know if it's a heavy or light cream just by looking at the ingredient list. And that's just not true. For example, with the moisturizer right here, it includes a high concentration of squalane. I've seen squalane in very heavy, thick, creamy moisturizers, and I've also seen it in consistencies like this, which is very lightweight. squalane may be in the same spot on the ingredient list, but it all comes down to the percentage. And there's just no way of knowing what a consistency will be solely from looking at the ingredient list, which is why it's always good, if you do like the ingredient list of a product, to actually test out the formula in a sample or on your hand to know exactly how it feels. And unfortunately, nothing is ever going to replace that experience. As much as you can learn about ingredients, nothing will be actually trying out the product. And trust me, if there was a way to know just from the ingredient list, I would be all over that shit. And it's actually a lot more complicated than you think, which goes for everything in the skincare world. One of the values on my channel is reading an ingredient list. I think it's so important, and it's how I base a lot of my reviews on products, what my philosophies and opinions are. And as consumers, an ingredient list is really the only thing we have access to in terms of knowing what is in a product. And while we don't know everything about ingredient lists are our best bet at actually knowing something. And while we don't know everything about those ingredients, that's as much information as we have access to as consumers. Ingredient lists are somewhat regulated, which means there's a standard that companies have to hold themselves to. Any information beyond that, we really can't confirm as customers, but we can know for certain what the main ingredients in a product are, which is why I always preach the importance of reading an ingredient list so that as a consumer, you are purchasing a product with some information rather than not knowing anything about the product at all, and if it aligns with your personal skincare philosophy. We can't know everything, but we can know some about a product, and I think it's great to turn your products around and look at the ingredient list to judge what's in them and if it works right for your skin. Number 2, a list is ordered from the most present ingredient to the least present ingredient. This is somewhat false, but somewhat true. I'll explain. Any ingredient included over 1% in a product has to be listed chronologically. So whatever ingredient is at the top of the ingredient list is the most present in a formula, all the way down to the 1% mark. Any ingredient under 1% can be listed wherever the company prefers to list them. Why is this? Well, companies don't want other companies to match their exact formulas and rip them off. So being able to order some ingredients in a different order ensures that other companies won't copy those formulas. Another reason for this is that a lot of products do have fragrance in them, and fragrance is very valuable in the skincare world, where sometimes the only reason a person purchases a product is because of the smell. And being able to place those fragrant ingredients in different places ensures that a company won't copy your exact fragrance. And also because ingredients formulated at less than 1% are rarely irritating to the face, and the main reason that ingredient lists exist is for people to ensure that they're not going to have any irritation, sensitivity, or a reaction to an ingredient. And ingredients above 1% definitely do have the potential to irritate the skin, but most of the time when an ingredient is under 1%, it means that there's a very low risk of irritation. Now, Hyram, how do you know where the 1% line is? Technically, we'll never know. It's kind of hard to tell, but I want to tell you about a fun trick that I typically use to get a good idea of where ingredients are in terms of percentage. Let's look at the ingredients of the squalane and vitamin C dark spot serum. It's a new product from Biossance. Awesome ingredient list. It's fragrance free. It has different forms of vitamin C to help fade dark spots, as well as mushroom to soothe sensitivity and irritation. It's great. But if you look at the ingredient list, you'll see at the very end, there's an ingredient called phenoxyethanol. Phenoxyethanol is formulated in products at a maximum of 1%. So you know that anything under phenoxyethanol will be less than 1%. So you'll see on this product, under phenoxyethanol is the ingredient ethyl hexyl glycerin. Now, is this foolproof? No, because sometimes phenoxyethanol can be less than 1% in a product. But if you're just starting to read ingredient lists, it's a great way of being able to tell, in general, if an ingredient is above 1% or less than 1%. Whew, that was complicated. This is really technical. I'm having so much fun. Myth number 3, there's no reason to read an ingredient list, as this information is only relevant to chemists. And false, I strongly disagree. Reading an ingredient list can help you find what ingredients are best suited for your skin type and your primary skin concerns. If you're wanting a brightening ingredient like vitamin C in a hydrating serum, it's important that you look through the hydrating serum's ingredient list to see if they do have any of those ingredients. Or if you're someone with really dry skin and you see at the very top of the ingredient list an ingredient like denatured alcohol, which can dry out the skin, you would know that that product is not meant for your skin type. It also helps you avoid sensitivities. More and more people are becoming sensitized to skincare, and it's important that you know which specific ingredients you have sensitivities to, so that when you look through an ingredient list, you know to look out for those ingredients. Like, I have a sensitivity to high concentrations of denatured alcohol, so that's one of the reasons I always look through an ingredient list to see if it has that ingredient so I can avoid it. Wow, I just realized I'm saying ingredient so much in this video. I apologize now. And just overall, it helps you be more educated and more intentional in your purchasing habits. I see the ability to read an ingredient list as an amazing opportunity for self-education and just a fascinating journey through skincare. And I think it takes the fun out of it by just ignoring the ingredient list and just purchasing a product because of the claims that it has. Because as we know, companies like to make very, very, very bold claims when they don't have the ingredients to back those claims up. And being able to read a list will help you be able to determine if the quality of the product is at your standard. There's just no way of knowing the quality solely from an ingredient list. And honestly, there's so many things that we'll never know from just reading an ingredient list, which which, if you want to learn more about what an ingredient list does and doesn't tell you, go watch my video that I've done for Bioscience on Clean Academy. I have a whole video dedicated to that topic where I deep dive even more into reading ingredient lists. That one was a lot of fun to make. I'll have it linked in the description box below. Myth number 4, you can tell the quality of an ingredient just by the ingredient lists. Nope, 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 nope. There's no way of knowing solely from reading an ingredient list the quality, where it's sourced from, or the relative concentration. And unfortunately, not all ingredients are made the same. Some ingredients can be sourced unethically, very poor quality, low concentration of benefits, or not stabilized correctly. And as much as I wish we could know this information, honestly, there is just not enough room on a box to be able to know all of it. It's just way too much information, the majority of which would not be helpful to a consumer, unless you're me, who's a geek in that area. But this is why it's important to invest in brands that commit to high quality ingredient standards and sourcing and sustainability. If you see that a brand is holding themselves to higher standards than what is common in the industry and they're transparent about it, that's a good way to gauge and determine that the ingredients that they're using are higher quality. And myth number 5, active ingredients will only work if they're at the top of an ingredient list. Yet again. This is false, and I've seen this conversation happen so many times where someone is looking for a salicylic acid based product and they're looking through the ingredient list and they're like, oh, salicylic acid is at the very bottom. Of course I'm not going to want to use this. It's not at the top of the ingredient list, therefore this product's bad. There's this belief that when it comes to percentages, more is better. That if you have more of a specific ingredient of a product, the higher percentage, the better the product is. And that is not true. Active ingredients like exfoliants or retinol are beneficial at lower concentrations, and having them at a really high concentration can actually damage and sensitize the skin. For example, salicylic acid is very strong at a concentration of 2%. If you had 50% of salicylic acid in a product, it'd probably burn your face off. Ugh, I don't know, and I'm sure as hell not willing to try. And this is the case for so many ingredients. Also hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is really beneficial in a product, but if it's at too high of a concentration, you can see complications and sensitivities in the skin. Just because you see an active exfoliant or retinol at the bottom of an ingredient list does not mean that the product is not going to work, be effective, or that it's not a good product. Besides, even if a product has a high concentration of an exfoliant, that doesn't mean it's going to be right for your skin. My skin is sometimes a little bit sensitive to high concentrations of glycolic acid, which is why I like the percentage to be a little bit lower. Even if an active ingredient is at the bottom of a list, that doesn't mean it's not going to be effective. It can very much still work and really help your skin out. And just an afterthought, I am seeing a lot of people saying that there's really no need to read an ingredient list and that we shouldn't focus so much on what ingredients are in a product and that we should more so just focus on the experience and if our skin likes it. And honestly, I feel like one of the magic things about skincare, the reason why it's so fascinating and interesting, is being able to read an ingredient list. That's what makes skincare fun. There's so much knowledge and there's so many products out there to try that I see reading an ingredient list not only is beneficial to your skin, but also to your mind. And I would never deny anyone of that opportunity. No, being serious though, there's so many products out there and it's great to be able to have a little bit of direction and a little bit of knowledge to help you have more fun when it comes to choosing skincare products. And in my belief, reading an ingredient list will get you really, really far in terms of finding high quality products that are going to perform best on your skin. Remember, ingredient lists are windows into highly complex journeys, topics, and fields of research, and it's very complicated, and it's okay that it's complicated. While reading an ingredient list should be helpful in guiding your purchasing decisions, it should never feel overwhelming, intimidating, or disappointing. It should be fun. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you do want to see my other video that I did for Clean Academy, go to the link in the description box below. Thank you so much, Bioscience, for sponsoring this video and being a great midpoint between the scientific and the clean beauty world. And if you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can see my videos every single week. And I'll see you guys in the next one.